she had the company that he was basically sending funds to, all kinds of things. But she was in Soho in Manhattan in New York City recently, just a few miles north of an FBI office. And now we hear the past couple of days that Sam Bankman-Fried has been arrested. But I have not seen him on Capitol Hill. I believe he is still in the Bahamas. I don't know. His parents, or both lawyers, may be there with him. I don't know. That may just be a rumor. It's hard to get exact details because there's a lot of people trying to push misinformation. But I'm just going to do a short video here from Fox News. This is on Capitol Hill. Yeah, I think the Sam Bankman-Fried is probably playing Fortnite. I hear the new season is great, not because it's Fortnite, but some really good Unreal Engine features, great lighting effects. I'm sure that Sam Bankman-Fried is playing hours and endless hours of Fortnite as his parents try to figure out how to keep him out of jail. But who knows? Maybe he won't even go to jail. But we're going to do this short little old video here. I'm going to do a quick video to SnoozeTube. Then I'm going to shut down SnoozeTube. And then maybe just check the headlines at CoinDesk. I'm not going to do that long of a stream. AOC is here on the Hill. I was not expecting AOC, to tell you the truth, to be talking about this. But as she is such a sweetheart on Capitol Hill and is widely recognized, I guess, they've got her in this clip, She sells very well. She knows how to market herself. So let's hit this. I have to make sure that the video's coming in, so give me a second here. LB browsers. The audio is enabled, so let me test this.
From customers and using it.
Looks like it's coming through. So
not sophisticated at all.
Just quickly, this guy is Ray Ray. I call him Ray Ray, but I think his name is just Ray. But he's Ray the Third, so I guess I don't know. I'm gonna call him Ray for Ray the Third. I believe he came in as CEO when Enron collapsed. I was in Northern California and San Francisco when Enron collapsed. Our power was going out, so he came in there and dealt with the Enron fiasco, and now he is the CEO of FTX and was brought in to clean things up. He is not presently playing video games, so let's see what he has to say.
Sophisticated, perhaps, in the way they were able to sort of hide it from people, frankly, right in front of their eyes. But this isn't sophisticated whatsoever. This is just plain old embezzlement.
Former chairman of Enron, now CEO of FTX, testifying before the House Financial Services Committee yesterday. Ray blaming grossly inexperienced owners for the collapse of FTX, saying that there was near zero corporate infrastructure and record keeping, and the company was uniquely positioned to fail. Joining us right now is Texas Congressman, member of the House Finance Committee, Lance Gooden. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. What did you take away from that hearing yesterday?
Well, basically, inexperienced crooks were in charge, as the chairman says. We didn't learn as much as we wanted to because, as you know, the Justice Department arrested Mr. Bankman-Fried the night before we were supposed to have a hearing. You've already discussed it this morning, but it is totally asinine, crazy to me that a prosecution team would not want their future defendant to come before our committee and continue spilling his guts to Congress, which he's done in the media the last few weeks. But
yeah, this is another really strange thing. It's a new era. Crypto's a new era. It's basically unregulated, and I don't know of any time a financial entity this large has collapsed with someone like Sam Bankman-Fried. He's around 30 years old, but he acts like he's a 15-year-old boy. He then I don't know how lawyers, his parents are lawyers, he has enough money to hire a team of lawyers. They all were telling him to not speak on Twitter Spaces. He did multiple Twitter Spaces. He did a New York Times conference, all remotely from the Bahamas. So why you don't, when your company goes bankrupt and there's allegations of corruption, embezzlement, and all that, you don't go on the media circuit and speak about it and incriminate yourself. The only thing I can think of is that it's being done intentionally. I watched I believe the very last Twitter Spaces, and some of the male interviewers, reporters, what have you, were starting to get visibly angry. Their voices, it was just audio, but they really started to get lost. They lost all patience for Sam Bankman-Fried because he just kept on avoiding questions. So the only thing I can think of is it was set up from the beginning to be a complete circus. But who knows? I mean, I can't come to any other determination. Also, BlackRock. Let me check the stream real quick. BlackRock, which is a massive investment company, I guess, in the $7 trillion range. There is no other corporation on earth with the wealth that they have. They work directly with the Federal Reserve, basically, and the U.S. federal government. And I unfortunately forget the guy that runs BlackRock. But the basics of it are they only put 24 million, BlackRock put 24 million in FTX, which is absolute peanuts when they have, they manage buy up trillions of dollars worth of assets. But he did mention, the CEO of BlackRock, I believe he was the CEO, he did mention about the merits of crypto, blah, 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 and he didn't want to get grilled on FTX because, that 24 million is gone, but he just, it was just completely bizarre. And I need to do some more research on the BlackRock connection. But there might not be much there. It may have just been Sam Bankman-Fried was giving $30 million to the Democratic Party. There were also some Republicans that got money, but he was going around everywhere. And the basics of what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing was he was going not to the SEC where Gary Gensler is, but the CFTC, the commodities branch in the federal government, and trying to get softball regulation for crypto. But if things keep rolling the way they are, it's, SEC is going to do proof of stake like what Ethereum is now, and Solana and things like that. And then the CFTC would do proof of work like Bitcoin and Ergo and stuff like that. I'm going to finish up the video. Big shark eyes, AOC with those big, dark, black eyes will be talking. She doesn't really say much. She just kind of reads off some paper documents that she has and questions Ray from FTX CEO about, dates and times, whereabouts, and it really isn't much. I think they're just showing her as a promotional thing. But some of the other politicians on the Hill had some really interesting things to say, and we'll get to that when it comes up.
What we learned yesterday was that the one thing Democrats did not want to talk about were all the campaign contributions that had come from this embezzled money. And I can't find anyone in this town, even the few Republicans that took money from him, it's mostly Democrats, who want to talk about returning these funds to the bankruptcy court so they can funnel these funds back to those who have who have suffered from this collapse.
I don't see how people that had crypto on FTX are going to get their crypto back. But you could argue that their crypto is still on the blockchain. So if everybody worked together, that could work. I mean, Ethereum had gotten hacked a few years back. They patched things up. It's another thing that needs to be fixed with crypto. When scams come and when individuals or companies get hacked, or crypto gets hacked, it's just records on the blockchain. There could be some kind of process to fix that, but a lot of people are in a camp where you can't mutate it or change it, the blockchain. It should be immutable, meaning you can't fix hacks or anything like that, but have to see how it evolves.
So this sounds like this is another cover-up by the Democrats of bad behavior, just the way we're seeing this cover-up of what's gone on at Twitter. Do you believe that is why they arrested him hours before he was set to go under oath, so that the Democrats would protect all of that information and we would not hear under oath how much money he's given to Democrats of embezzled money?
I mean, I don't know that we'll ever be able to prove it, but it certainly seems logical, and I can't think of a logical reason why we would not want him to testify yesterday. And I also can't find anyone that wants to talk about all of the Democratic contributions. These, as I said yesterday, this is not just a case of someone taking a donation from someone who then turns out to be questionable, when you then perhaps donate that to charity and say, I refuse any.
Sam Bankman-Fried was playing, I believe, League of Legends when he was talking to an investment company that gave him $20 million. This gives you an idea. They even mentioned, I think they mentioned in this, the company was using QuickBooks to manage their finances. So this is just a Ponzi scheme, make it look like a company.
Any contributions from this character, whoever this is. Kanye West, for example. If you found out later that he was a racist and you didn't want a contribution, you wouldn't give it back to him, you'd give it to charity. In this case, contributions taken from Bankman-Fried were stolen money from people who want to be made whole. And in the case of the U.S. Subsidiary of FTX, why aren't we talking about all these politicians that took money from him, returning it back? So I shouldn't even mention this, but it is on one of my research items to do. There is a connection, and perhaps a romantic connection, and I know this is deeply disturbing for anyone that knows who Maxine Waters is, but she's in the House of Representatives in California, I believe Southern California, and it's definitely not on the top priority list, but when I get to it, I get to it. I believe there may be, this is allegedly a romance between Maxine Waters and Sam Bankman-Fried. That, I think, would be probably one of the juiciest tidbits out of all this. It can get back in the hands of those who've lost money.
Brian, and let me just say, the White House is refusing to say if they're going to return these political contributions from Bankman-Fried. The Securities and Exchange Commission chairman, Gary Gensler, hid public information, apparently, about private meetings he had with Hillary Clinton, billionaire George Soros, even Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. He's actually editing out these meetings from the public record.
Why? If there's nothing to hide, why? Congressman, this is my question to you. We've got heaps of regulators in D.C. Nobody was on this. And is that a question of just being ignorant to what's happening, or was there willful looking away because people in D.C. like the narrative of Sam Bankman-Fried, and they didn't want to let that get in the way of the fact that you had a rotten company at its heart? What's going on there?
Well, I think there's lots of potential answers to that. I can promise you're not going to have an answer to that question before Republicans take over next month. But I expect that we will have hearings and we'll get some answers to that. I do think he became a media darling for the Democrats. They saw him as a rising star that was going to bankroll their political future. Remember, he made promises to donate quite a large sum in the general election this past cycle, but he did not follow through, and Democrats were very disappointed. And I think they were very disappointed when all this came out and they realized that the money they had taken was in fact stolen and embezzled money. And so
all right, I have to load up the right video here. Let me make sure.
This is just taking money from.
Well, we got Maxine Waters. Maybe I need to go over here more. When was this posted? I'm going to let this roll for a little while. It's 7 hours ago. Let me go back to where we were here. I need to check something.
Stolen and embezzled money. And so now they find themselves thinking, well, we should thank the Justice Department for arresting the guy because he was going to humiliate us in our hearing, and now that's no longer an issue, which is go ahead.
But, Congressman, this is Dagan McDowell. This is a bipartisan problem. That the whole allure of crypto was that it was unregulated, and that Republicans and Democrats for years had the opportunity to come in and regulate the industry, and they didn't want to stop the party and take the candy away from the kids who were having such a great time. Just like TikTok, it's the same thing. Right. Again, this was an issue. Crypto would have never blown up the way that it did, and I mean to the upside, if not for the money printing by the Federal Reserve and the spending by Democrats and Republicans. And so there was no regulation. The Federal Trade Commission could have come in. They can regulate consumer products. The Consumer Financial Protection Agency could have come in. But they didn't do it. And FTX was offshore. So this is a broad problem. Everybody.
The money. Is it because of the money they got again?
No, it was both Republicans and Democrats. This went on for years. Nobody regulated it. They didn't want to stop the party.
For crypto as a whole, that is accurate. But also, stealing is a basic crime that has been against the rules since the Ten Commandments came out. It's very obvious. If someone gives you money to do one thing with.
I don't know what happened, but the video got screwed up. This should be the right one.
They use QuickBooks.
This is Altcoin Daily. For some reason, there was a Fox News video was loading. I had the wrong link. This is the right one, and big old dark-eyed, shark-eyed AOC is here. She's over here in this segment here. They got the little old bookmarks on the YouTube video here, which help out. So we're going to do the whole 14 minutes of this one right here. This was posted 19 hours ago. And this is where I was talking about the QuickBooks. Ray. That's what he starts off with here, so let's do that.
They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks.
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks.
Day one of the FTX crypto hearing in Congress was wild. From AOC getting into conspiracy theories, to Brad Sherman grandstanding on why Bitcoin should die. The information that came out of this hearing was big. For example, new FTX CEO John J. Ray has been clear. This level of fraud is so much worse than the Enron fraud, and he details just how amateur the business of FTX was.
Mr. Ray, you have compared FTX as worse than Enron. Can you please elaborate on some of the specific ways FTX is worse than one of the largest corporate frauds in history?
The FTX group is unusual in the sense that, I've done probably a dozen large, scale bankruptcies over my career, including Enron, of course. Every one of those entities had some financial problem or another. They have some characteristics that are in common. This one is unusual, and it's unusual in the sense that literally, there's no record keeping whatsoever. It's in the absence of record keeping. Employees would communicate, invoicing and expenses on Slack, which is, essentially a way of communicating for chat rooms. They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks.
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks. Nothing against QuickBooks, very nice tool, just not for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Now, I watched all nearly 4 hours of this, so you don't have to. I pulled the best clips. And while Sam Bankman-Fried was not able to testify today, as we discussed yesterday, SBF has been arrested. Here,
I mean, at this point, I don't know if, at least in the short term, that he'll be appearing on Capitol Hill, because he's still in the Bahamas, and it could take a long time. I've heard rumors, Bahamas, and there are entities there. Maybe it's related to his parents or somebody in the chain, but it sounds like he's going to be in the Bahamas for a while, and they're going to have to extradite him, and that could take a long time. We don't know.
here are his charges per the New York Times: wire fraud conspiracy, securities fraud conspiracy, and money laundering. New FTX CEO John Ray confirmed what we've all known, that there was obviously commingling of funds, and the separation between Alameda and FTX was virtually nothing.
The operation of Alameda really depended, based on the way it was operated, for the use of customer funds. That's the major breakdown here. Funds from FTX.com, which was the exchange for non-U.S. citizens. Those funds were used at Alameda to make investments and other disbursements. There were virtually no internal controls and no separateness whatsoever.
And while I'll play you this AOC clip in a second, as well as maybe the creepiest clip to come out of today's hearing, the real question is, just how much money does FTX have left? Because they're in the hole between $10 billion and $50 billion. What's left, and who gets paid back first between U.S. versus international?
We've been able to secure, over $1 billion of assets. We've secured those to cold wallets in a secure location. It's an ongoing process, though, which will take, weeks and perhaps months.
All right, I'll unmute myself here. 30 million around there in the past 2 years was given mainly to the Democratic Party from Sam Bankman-Fried's company. And he also was betting. He was betting on the Trump election 2020 with Beijing Biden. He was taking bets. He was actually betting on both. But stuff like that, it was just, you can't take anything that he has done seriously. I don't know how that's going to work. This should be interesting. It's one of those details, like the 30 million that was given out and everything else that's going to get traced. Is this going to be fully transparent, those details in these court hearings on the Hill? We'll have to see.
To secure all of the assets.
Are most creditors located in the U.S. or foreign jurisdictions?
The majority of the creditors trade through the .com silo and are outside of this jurisdiction, although there are some foreign customers that are on the U.S. silo and vice versa.
Representative Brad Sherman chose to spend his 5 minutes, almost all of it, not questioning the people, but instead grandstanding on why cryptocurrency is evil, as if he's been waiting his whole career for this.
For 5 years, I've been trying to ban American investments in crypto. I'm the only member of the House to get an F from the only crypto-promoting organization that rates members of Congress. My fear is that we'll view Sam Bankman-Fried as just one big snake in a crypto Garden of Eden. The fact is, crypto is a garden of snakes. Now, from the outside, Crypto just looks like a non-fungible token, an electronic pet rock for the 21st century, something that might be good to invest in even though it has no apparent value because you might get somebody else to buy it from you for even more. But in reality, the hope of crypto is to be a currency, to compete with the US dollar, and to announce its advantage over the US dollar in that competition. It puts the advantage right in the name. Crypto, hidden currency. Now, Sam Bankman-Fried, or should I say inmate 14372, had one purpose in all of his efforts here in Congress. Was a well-known figure, only one wearing shorts. His one purpose was to keep the SEC out of crypto, to provide a patina of regulation, baby regulation from the CFTC. And I'll have one comment from my colleagues. Don't trash Sam Bankman-Fried and then pass his bill.
Now for every.
So, yeah, that was quite a mouthful. I guess he doesn't like cryptocurrency because he'd rather have the US dollar keep its strength and its domination over the entire world, and there can't be any competition, I guess. And also, a big aspect of crypto is that all of the technology into securing crypto, which it feels like we still have a ways to go on better securing crypto on a basic level, just sending money from point A to point B and doing it securely. But all of that technology, MIT's already working on it with the government. They're taking what Bitcoin has done and analyzing what they're doing in the crypto market overall, which there are good crypto platforms. It's not all scams. It's just they've created that illusion so that disengage the public, so average investors, average people don't engage in it. But all that technology is going to be, well, parts of it are going to be used for the central bank digital currency that very likely will be released by the U.S. federal government. We don't know for sure. They have to come out with something by the end of next year, so we'll have to wait and see. Big old shark eyes is coming up, I promise. Big old black-eyed AOC. This guy, Altcoin, mentioned she talks about a conspiracy, so I didn't get that the first time I saw this video. So we can look at that when that comes up in a little bit.
Anti-crypto senator, we have more and more pro-crypto senators popping up. Representative Tom Emmer chose to spend his 5 minutes defending decentralization, as well as questioning the new FTX CEO. Just how involved was SEC Chair Gary Gensler in all this? How much did Gary Gensler know?
We know that Chair Gensler had more meetings with FTX than anyone else in the crypto industry. We understand that what was being negotiated was a framework for digital asset exchange registration and token registration with the SEC that would benefit both parties. It would expand the SEC's jurisdiction in exchange for the SEC's preferential treatment of FTX over other industry participants. We understand there was a lot of activity to move this idea forward, including the circulation of draft short-form disclosures that would enable filers to get tokens listed on this newly formed bespoke exchange. Mr. Ray, I know you're handicapped with the information you currently have obtained, but Chair Gensler refuses to answer our questions or testify before this committee. Will you commit to sharing with this committee any internal documents you come across regarding communication between FTX and Mr. Gensler or others at the SEC?
We'll fully cooperate, with the committee and the regulatory authorities with respect to our investigation.
Again, specifically, I just want copies. This committee will want copies of those communications to the extent they exist.
We can certainly work with your staff to get you what you need.
Thank you. And Mr. Ray, I appreciate you mentioning your concerns in the beginning of my questioning about the concentration of power in a small group of individuals with no oversight. That is the exact problem that open and permissionless technology like crypto and blockchain solve. It solves for the problems of centralization. You stated in your testimony that you've never seen such a, quote, utter failure of corporate controls at every level of an organization, from the lack of financial statements to a complete failure of any internal controls or governance whatsoever, close quote. Fortunately, the immutable characteristics of public blockchains that some people would care not to understand in this committee allowed the crypto community to reveal Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud, and the on-chain public record will assist law enforcement moving forward. I encourage my colleagues to understand Sam Bankman-Fried's con for what it is: a failure of centralization, a failure of business ethics, and a crime. It is not a failure of technology. Decentralization is the point.
And that brings us to AOC, who I thought...
All right, so before we get to old big shark eyes, big black shark eyes, AOC, yeah, so that guy definitely complete opposite from the guy before, who was extremely anti-crypto. This guy that just spoke, I need to do some more research on him. But he had a lot of good things to say. Decentralized, permissionless, so basic. You need a layer of anonymity on top of that to make everything work. But that's really truly what crypto is. But I don't. If the U.S. federal government comes out with a CBDC, you can't do it decentralized. It's going to be centralized, extremely fast, and it's going to be able to track every single transaction you do with a U.S. digital dollar, which pretty horrifying thing. So CBDCs are very much shunned. The concept of them. Nigeria, I believe, is the first. Nigeria has some kind of CBDC. I need to look into that. China has done the digital yuan. There are other countries that are starting to experiment with it. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's going to take, at the very least, 3 to 5 years, maybe 10 years. They're gonna have to. I mean, they have to. It's too complex. They're gonna have to. They might do like special areas of the U.S. if they do definitely come up with a U.S. Fed digital currency. I mean, they've already released a digital token in New York at the state level, I believe. Digital token is really just like a lightweight central bank digital currency. So it's coming. It seems like definitely coming. Now we got big shark eyes, AOC. This is really the focal point of the stream here, and also the politician that concludes this video also has something disturbing to say. So definitely check that out. But God, here we go with AOC. I'm going to try my best to understand what she's trying to get at here.
Actually asked a poignant question. Why did Sam Bankman-Fried only get arrested the day before he was going to testify? Does anybody else smell something fishy about Sam Bankman-Fried's arrest? AOC starts by questioning the role of the Bahamian government in terms of bankruptcy, and then asks about the timing of the SBF arrest.
I want to put together a little bit of a timeline of this collapse between November 12th and yesterday. On November 2nd, we have CoinDesk leaking these balance sheets. On the 8th, Binance signs a non-binding letter to acquire FTX, and Bankman-Fried freezes or pauses withdrawals from FTX. I would like to submit to the record your declaration to the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, or FTX's declaration to the U.S. Bankruptcy Court that was filed yesterday. Now, on November 9th, the day after those assets were frozen, Binance announced it would not go through with the purchase, and according to this filing, the same day, Bankman-Fried emailed the Bahamian Attorney General with an offer. That offer stated that he would offer to unfreeze withdrawals just for Bahamian customers on FTX, quote, so they can tomorrow fully withdraw all their assets. Correct. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, on November 10th, FTX DM, the next day, was placed into a foreign provisional liquidation in the Bahamas, correct?
Correct.
The next morning. Now, after that, Bankman-Fried then made good on his offer, on his previous day's offer in that email to the Bahamian AG, opening withdrawals just in the Bahamas for a period of 25.5 hours. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, during that period, $100 million was withdrawn in the Bahamas from FTX by 1,500 individuals, correct?
Correct.
And this was the day before you were set to take over. So he was still in control. This was like right before he was supposed to hand this off. And then on November 16th, the Bahamian appointed joint provisional liquidators did something very interesting. They came here to the United States Bankruptcy Court and sought an entry to recognize the Bahamian liquidation as the main foreign proceeding. Would that additional control be of any potential value to Mr. Bankman-Fried for that Bahamian proceeding to be the main one?
Well, clearly, there seemed to be an effort by the Bahamian Commission to get control of the bankruptcy process, and I think that was evident by their filing, which, by the way, was made up in New York, not Delaware.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that correction. Now, did you uncover any evidence that demonstrates that this window, that 25.5-hour window, opened in exchange for any consideration offered to Mr. Bankman-Fried by the Bahamian Attorney General or any state official, including a promise to initiate liquidation proceedings which might offer a path towards Mr. Bankman-Fried retaining some control or influence over FTX.com?
We intend to investigate that very thing.
Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to dig into a little bit of the timeline of yesterday. Yesterday, you filed that same declaration that revealed some of this explosive information. What time did you file this?
That was late.
Around what time?
Yeah, 3 or 4 o'clock.
Around 3 or 4 o'clock. Now, when you file this information, that essentially discloses that you are sharing this information, and it discloses that to opposing counsel, correct?
Yes, we docket it, and the world knows about it.
Now, if opposing counsel essentially becomes notified of this, that would mean that Bankman-Fried and potentially Bahamian officials would have been potentially privy to that information starting around 3 or 4 p.m., correct?
Correct.
What time was Mr. Bankman-Fried arrested yesterday?
I believe it was in the early evening hours, after 4 o'clock.
I believe it was
7 o'clock, perhaps.
It was in the evening after that filing.
6, 7 o'clock, yes.
I would like to submit to the record the statement from the Attorney General of the Bahamas issued yesterday on the arrest of Mr. Samuel Bankman-Fried. And after submitting that to the record, I would like to note that in this statement, they stated at such time as a formal request for extradition is made, presumably by the Southern District of New York, but they do not state when that request for extradition was made. Do you believe that information is important for us to understand in order to piece together a timeline, Mr. Ray?
Yes, sir. I certainly don't have that full timeline.
Did he just call AOC sir? He may have misgendered her. I don't know what's going on. It's confusing nowadays.
And that's something that we look forward to learning.
All right, so I don't know. AOC, I mean, she brought up, overall some good points, but it's very confusing, and the whole Bahamas connection with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, there's still enormous amount of information coming out of that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what. I mean, is she not saying certain things? It doesn't seem that way. I mean, sounds like they're trying to figure out the Bahama connection. But my understanding is that the Bahama government was making deals with FTX. They wanted to secure FTX assets, and it sounds like there's entities over there related to FTX that are, obviously, like I said before, trying to keep things in the Bahamas. So I'll have to see the the process in extraditing Sam Bankman-Fried, is that going to happen quickly or is that going to happen fast? Christmas and holidays, Kwanzaa and Boxer Day, and if I left anything out, like Hanukkah, right around the corner. I think part of this, they're going to try to sweep Sam Bankman-Fried under the rug. We'll have to see. The guy, he loves attention and he loves talking on social media, but now that things are running and the process has started rather on the Hill, we'll have to see. Binance also is another big one. Binance is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. I've always had issues with it. I don't have an account on there. I've heard from people that have used Binance, it never, not never works, but it doesn't work a lot of the time. They restrict access to users. Why would you want to use an exchange like that? I do not have direct proof, but I'm looking into it. There could be a connection directly with the CCP and Binance. And something for me to research and see what comes with that. But long term, I don't have faith in Binance. I believe there's a very good chance that it also will collapse due to corruption over time. I'm going to finish up this video. Wow, I don't know what to say. So this politician on the Hill has a new name for crypto, and it's a little disturbing. It's not. It's actually humorous. And I believe there will be a new Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor with what this politician is talking about. And I think it's coming up right now, so let's check it out.
This is an ongoing story with day 2 of the hearing beginning tomorrow, including a testimony from Kevin O'Leary and others. Be sure to click subscribe so you can stay informed. Also, be sure to grab your tickets for the largest crypto conference in existence,
Bitcoin Miami
2023. Use code Altcoin Daily for 10% off. Now,
Winter
ticket prices
Bitcoin
do increase in 3 days.
in Miami.
So use code Altcoin Daily, 10% off. Grab your tickets.
Let's
and
go.
Like always, I leave you with this, your moment of Zen.
I wonder if you would support a resolution that I've been thinking about introducing, changing the name of cryptocurrency to creepy dough currency. I'm going to discuss this with my colleagues.
What?
I think it's an appropriate name. I just
What
wanted
are you
to know whether
talking
you
about?
would support changing it to creepy dough.
I'll leave that skill set to the committee.
I want Ben & Jerry's. You heard it here first. I want Ben & Jerry's to create a crypto creepy dough flavor, I guess. Creepy dough. Crypto creepy dough. Ben & Jerry's. And just eat the whole pint in a sitting and you'll be fucking feeling fucking outstanding. Amazing. I'm going to end the stream on SnoozeTube, otherwise known as YouTube, and I'm just going to finish up not on YouTube because I'm always scared to stream on YouTube. But I'd like to thank Google and everyone for building the largest and most massive and holy video platform. So, but we are going to fade out, and that's it. I'm